Hello, welcome to my channel WWE Pulse.
Fan signs have become one of the most important parts of a wrestling show. They're a way for the audience to interact with what's going on in the ring, and they can sometimes even be a way for fans to make their voices heard in the storyline. Just think back to when CM Punk S fans were bringing signs to shows reading. CM Punk is the best in the world, or how Young Cena fans would chant Cena. Yes, at every single show. But if you think those are the only examples, then you'd be wrong. There are many great examples from throughout wrestling history. So today we're going to look at some of the greatest fan signs and chants ever. Let's get it on. Welcome back. I'm your host. And like I said, we're going to look at some of the greatest fan signs and chants ever. No, there's a lot of different reasons why a sign or a chant can become so popular. Sometimes it's because it becomes a catchphrase for a wrestler, like the aforementioned Cena, yes. Other times it's just to troll the wrestlers or the commentator. And other times it's something that's a little more clever. So we're gonna try to mix it up and look at all types of different signs. We'll also try to stay away from looking at signs that are just mean-spirited towards someone. You know, there's plenty of those on YouTube already. Instead, we're gonna look at the fun ones. The funny ones, the ones that made wrestlers tap out. You know what I mean? So, first off, let's start with the sign. It's simply, it's effective, and it has caused many wrestlers to tap out. That's right. The X is the Rated R Superstar Edge. Rated R Superstar Edge came up in the WWE around 2004.
Wow.
He was a cocky, arrogant heel who would do almost anything to win a match. And he also had a very famous finishing move called the Rated R Spear. The spear was usually pretty vicious, but it did have a weakness. Like a lot of finishing moves, it took time to set up. Edge would usually run full speed at his opponent before hitting the move. And during that time, the fans came up with the idea of putting up an X to distract him. This ended up working so well that it actually became an official part of the WWE Universe. Edge would come out and see the excess and immediately ask the crowd why they were doing that. Then they would tell him that he wasn't rated R. Then he would always respond by saying, "I am rated R." To which the crowd would respond, "You're not rated." After this exchange, Edge would get very angry and immediately go after the person who held up the sign. Now, it didn't always work. In fact, it backfired on Edge quite a bit. But on occasion, the fans would actually cause Edge to break character and argue with the fans. And sometimes the argument would get so loud that you could barely hear the commentators, plus the Rated R. Spear isn't exactly a quick move. So there was enough time for the fans to get their signs up and distract Edge long enough for him to take the loss. And now, since the sign is considered an official part of the WWE Universe, it's been used against many heels over the years. Even though the original Rated R Superstar Edge hasn't been a full-time wrestler for years, the X still lives on. And you can usually see it at any event that Edge appears at. But next up, let's look at a chant that got so loud it literally shook an arena. It's the "Are you serious?" chant. This chant dates all the way back to 1987 and the infamous Montreal. The Montreal Screwjob is one of the most famous moments in professional wrestling history. On this night, WWE Champion Hulk Hogan was scheduled to drop the WWE Championship to his arch-rival, the Macho Man Randy Savage. The problem was Savage's wife and manager, Miss Elizabeth, was in the front row and she was never supposed to see her husband win the title. She had recently turned on Savage after being manipulated by the villainous senator, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Now, because of this, Vince McMahon had secretly planned for Hulk Hogan to retain the championship by using underhanded tactics at the end of the match while the referee was distracted. Vince McMahon came down to the ring and handed the championship to Hulk Hogan, causing him to win the match. This resulted in Hulk Hogan becoming a 6-time WWE champion. The fans were furious and they started chanting, "Are you serious?" And the chant continued until Hulk Hogan left the arena. It was so loud that it actually shook the building. This caused Hulk Hogan to turn around and argue with the fans. It was one of the few times where Hulk Hogan actually broke character and argued with the fans. Now, the Montreal Screwjob has become one of the most infamous moments in wrestling history. And the chant, "Are you serious?" is one of the greatest examples of how powerful the fans can be. Nowadays, you can hear the chant whenever there's a controversial finish to a match. Usually the fans on table to shake the building. But it is still one of the greatest examples of a sign or a chant getting under the skin of a wrestler. But next up, let's look at a sign that ended a rivalry once and for all. It's the old man sign. This one goes back to 1997 and the legendary rivalry between Bret the Hitman Hart and his longtime friend and tag team partner, Shawn Michaels. These two had a great rivalry. It included everything from ladder matches to a classic Iron Man match. But it all came to an end at the Survivor Series. During their match, Shawn Michaels put Bret Hart in the sharpshooter, and as the match was about to come to an end, Michaels decided to hold the move just a little bit longer than usual. As the fans were getting tired of the match, they started to put up old man signs. Now, at the time, Shawn Michaels was in his prime, and he was known for being extremely athletic. But Bret Hart was older and wasn't able to keep up with the high-flying offense of Michaels. So the fans used this to their advantage.
Wow.
They wanted Michaels to lose. So they started putting up signs saying he was slow and old. Eventually, Michaels got so frustrated that he stopped the hold and argued with the fans. This ended up distracting him long enough for Hart to kick out of the sharpshooter and go on to win the match. Now, the old man chant continued long after this match. And Michaels would go on to lose several more matches as the fans kept chanting "Old Man." Eventually, Michaels realized that he needed to take a break from wrestling. And as soon as he did, he became one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. But next up, let's look at a sign that ended a wrestler's career. It's the dire sign. It might sound mean-spirited, but there's actually more to the story. Back in 2003, the WWE was trying to push a new villain named Christian. At the time, the company was really trying to put the Edge and Christian a gay angle. So, the WWE had them come out and kiss each other on TV. And even though the fans weren't really buying it, they thought it was a great joke. So the fans started putting up signs to make fun of the situation. Now, at the time, Christian had been wrestling the WWE for almost 10 years. And throughout that time, he had never really reached the main event scene. So when he saw these signs, he was pretty upset. But instead of letting it get to him, he used it to his advantage. He started coming out with T. Seared stat. Read, I'm going to die. And he even made merchandise out of it. The fans loved it. He got so popular that the WWE eventually released the Die, Die, Die shirts. And even though he had never reached the main event level of popularity, he was able to get pretty close. However, it wasn't all fun and games. The stress of trying to live up to the expectations of the fans eventually caused Christian to retire in 2014. All right, guys, that's all the time we have for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and share it with a friend. Until next time, this is your host.
Okay guys, thank you for watching my videos.